All right, this is big time. Holy Lord, we had some technical issues this morning. Holy crap. Headphones don't work. Electricity goes out. I don't know what is going on. But anyway, I'm big time. Today we're coming at you with Black leadership in DC. They're coming for women's spaces. We got a defensive gun use. And then finally, we're going to have a comparison between how to handle Black violence in schools, what they're doing in Harrisburg versus what they're doing in Baltimore. So we'll get right into it. First story coming out of DC. DC Council overrides veto from Muriel Bowser, passes bill that reduces punishments for rape and murder. Anytime there is a policy that reduces penalties, I think it sends the wrong message. On Tuesday, the Council of the District of Columbia moved to override a veto by Democrat Mayor Muriel Bowser that prevented a bill aimed at reducing penalties for violent offenders, the revised Criminal Code Act, from becoming law. According to local news, in a 12-1 vote with Ward 8 council member Trayvon White voting in opposition. I wonder why they can't tell us the names of the people who voted for it. The council moved to override Bowser's veto of the revised Criminal Code Act. Essentially, the city's code determines what punishments to assign to crimes, including sentence lengths, and also classifies what type of crimes are misdemeanors. The code sets guidelines that the police, attorneys, courts, and prisons all work from. On January 3rd, Bowser vetoed the bill, and according to Fox News, Bowser said, "Anytime there is a policy that reduces penalties, I think it sends the wrong message." How bad does this new bill have to be when a Black female Democrat mammy says she votes against it? Anarcho-tyranny, baby. It's coming to DC, just like Chicago. The law eliminates mandatory minimum sentencing, reduces maximum sentences for offenders, and gives those accused of misdemeanors the right to a jury trial. Another change would allow those convicted of violent crimes like murder and rape to ask for early release 20 years into their sentence. Washington, D.C. has seen carjacking crimes soar since 2020, but the new bill would soften carjacking punishments. Mutual combat, just like Kim Fox, right, in Chicago. The bill would overhaul the city's criminal code that was written in 1901 and received a unanimous vote of approval by DC's all-Democrat council in November of last year. DC Attorney General Brian Schwab tweeted, "The revised Criminal Code Act is the product of more than a decade of research, compromise, and public input. Given our principal mission of improving public safety and the fair administration of justice, OAG has been engaged since day one of these reform efforts." Reform to DC's 122-year-old criminal code, passed before women and Black residents enjoyed fundamental rights, are sorely needed. Yeah, I agree with that half and half. I mean, you know, let me that's kind of a genetic fallacy, though. They never present the whole story there. I mean, look, if I had a group of people that couldn't speak my language and had never created a system of laws, if I was having a spelling bee and you didn't speak my language, I wouldn't invite you to the spelling bee. Do you understand? Do you understand that? Does that make sense? This bill will improve public safety and provide long overdue clarity and fairness in our justice system. Oh, yes, criminals have to be punished even less, right? RCCA should be the law of the district, Schwab added. I mean, the only people this is going to really hurt, besides everyone else, mostly is the Black community. I hope you understand that. You're just going to get more people killed. That's all you're doing. And you think that's a win. That's the left's answer to winning, not to report the crime. After Bowser's veto on January 10th, Council member Brooke Pinto tweeted, "Today, at CM Charles Allen and I are moving to override the mayor's veto of the revised Criminal Code Act. The veto threatens to unravel years of work and thorough study that has culminated in a criminal code that is more just, equitable, and clear, making us all safer." Yeah, right. Councilmember Matt Fruman tweeted, I will vote to override the mayor's veto of the revised Criminal Code Act. The RCCA modernizes our criminal code, making it more transparent and equitable, and will promote public safety. Yeah, bro. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. When you get carjacked, you know, and when you're probably the same guy that votes for gun safety. Oh, those pesky citizens with their amendments. We got to protect the criminals, right? The law now heads to Congress, and federal legislature will decide whether the bill will become law. So DC's going down. I mean, I feel bad for the kids who live there. I mean, if you voted for that, I don't know what to tell you. How many people how many people have to be assaulted, raped, and killed before you go, maybe we should punish criminals, huh? Especially black criminals. All right. And in our next segment I should have called it, Asians Are Not Always Based. Breast cancer surgeon slammed for calling adult human female a siren call for hatred. Disappointed to see uninclusive language in your publication at ABC Australia. This phrase is a siren call for hatred. Oh boy. The brainwashing is deep with this one. She drank all the Kool-Aid. She drank the whole fucking punch bowl. A surgeon and professor is being mocked after criticizing a crossword puzzle which used adult human female as the definition for woman, calling it uninclusive. On January 18th, Dr. Ray Liang posted a screenshot to her Twitter calling attention to a crossword she had seen in a Gardening Australia magazine. Ling expressed she was disappointed to see uninclusive language being used as a hint for one of the crossword lines. In her screenshot, Liang underlined a hint which read adult human female. Ling claimed the definition was a siren call for hatred and tagged Gardening Australia's parent media group, the Australian Broadcasting Corporation. I'm okay with your ability for free speech as long as you're not calling for people to be fired or censored. Once you cross that line, go fuck yourself. Lang is a breast and gender surgeon at Robina Hospital in the Australian state of Queensland. She's also a co-lead and clinical associate professor in the Faculty of Sciences and Medicine at Bond University. On her Bond University profile, Lang is described as having a particular research focused on breast cancer management, as well as diversity and inclusion in medicine, which is nobody cares. Look, diversity and inclusion. Okay, you're an Asian female. You're an Asian woman. You're now a doctor. Will you speak out against Harvard and the University of North Carolina, who had to create character tests in order to get around their racial quotas? How is it possible that for 3 years in a row, all the Asians interviewed at Harvard always scored the lowest on the character test, while the African Americans always scored the highest? How do you feel about your people in America being denied merit scholarships or being told they have to score on average 400 to 500 points higher than African Americans? Will you speak out against actual prejudice and discrimination against your people? I'm not impressed. Despite having both a background in advocating for women in the medical field and a specialization in women's healthcare, Lang began to attract attention on social media for her post railing against the definition of woman. Many users initially believed Ling was joking or was a parody account intended to mock the absurdity of trans activists. Some expressed shock when they realized she was being serious. Unbelievable, this person claims to be a breast surgeon in her bio, but thinks adult human female is uninclusive. Honestly, you literally couldn't make this up, tweeted one user in response. Some Twitter users were also quick to point out that as a doctor specializing in breast cancer, Ling should be aware of what a woman is. Sal Grover, the founder of women-only social media application Giggle, replied to Ling's post and noted that an understanding of biological sex should be considered important in women's healthcare. You're a doctor. If you won't acknowledge the fact that a woman is an adult human female, why should anyone let you come anywhere near them to practice medicine on them? Because if you'll ignore that biological fact, what else would you ignore? Good point. Ling responded to Grover. Well, of course she did. Writing, she doubled down, right? Here we go. Here's the double down. A woman is most commonly an adult female human. The word order is important, but there are a proportion who are also adults born genetically male who are women. Again, proving that Asians can be brainwashed. There you go. Oh, Asians are based? No, not this one. Not this one. In an effort to prove her point, oh, wait, here we go. Ling continued to call the definition adult human female a hate phrase, stating, "You only need to Google the phrase adult human female to get pages of anti trans hate. It's such a known hate phrase, it's caused a ban from standing for the UK Parliament." In an effort to prove her point, the woman's health doctor then shared an article about Natalie Bird, a mother of two and domestic abuse survivor, who was banned from running for public office for wearing a shirt that said woman, adult, human, female. Bird was also targeted by trans activists after asserting that women's refugees should be segregated based on sex. Wow, what a crazy idea. I mean, but then again, if I don't know, if they're Pakistani men and they start raping children, we're just going to say cultural differences, right? Right, Sadiq Khan? Adult human female has been used as a slogan by women's rights campaigners who aim to protect single-sex spaces by reaffirming that males cannot be women. Despite being a long-standing definition, the words were popularized as a political slogan by Standing for Women, a rights campaign established by Kelly J. Keene. Keene sells T-shirts reading the definition, such as the one Natalie Bird was reprimanded for wearing to fund her campaign. And look, crazy Asian. If you want to make your own T-shirts, make your own T-shirts, okay? This is just, ridiculous. Many critics of gender ideology have also pointed out that trans activists have failed to provide a coherent alternative definition for the word woman. The question, "What is a woman?" became a popularized slogan after conservative podcaster Matt Walsh made a documentary in 2022 highlighting the harms of gender ideology. A focal point of the feature were interviews with trans activists who seemed unable to provide a definition for women. Right. What I always say, what is kryptonite? What is a form of kryptonite? For lefty progressive liberals, a simple, direct question. Confusingly, Ling added a tweet to her original post today asserting that adult female humans is a more inclusive way to define women. Ironically, Ling is frequently consulted by Australian media on the experiences of female doctors. Yeah. So, in other words, let me say what's happening here as someone who's worked in a hospital before. This is a person who, in the circles she travels in the hospital, she's seen as someone with high regard. You have to understand that arguing with a surgeon in a hospital is career suicide. Okay. So, this is a woman who's used to getting her way. She's used to having zero pushback where she works. And again, I'm not saying she didn't earn her degree. I'm not saying that she's not intelligent to an extent. Maybe she has a high level of memorization, but, again, critical thinking maybe is just too far for her to grasp. But now that she's been outed as, now that there's a roadblock in her ability to think, there's been a neurological synaptic misfire in that brain of hers. Now suddenly she's surprised that not everyone's just kissing her butt and saying how amazing she is. I'm not saying that about her upbringing. I'm not saying she didn't work her way into college. I'm saying, as someone who's worked in a hospital, doctors and surgeons are rarely ever get pushback. We're talking about the only pushback they would ever get potentially is from a lawyer. And even then, it is impossible to get a doctor to ever say they did anything wrong. All right, so they're coming for women's spaces. I don't even want to finish the article. It just gets dumb. Okay, so if you've ever been to my website, I covered defensive gun use. This is the gun violence archive. I cover the defensive gun use. As you can see, there have been 33 mass shootings, but there have also been 58 defensive gun uses. That's what I cover because the mainstream media doesn't want you to have the right to defend yourself from their precious little criminals, especially the black ones. So we have a story here. Let's go.
Questions surrounding an early morning shooting at a Sanford bar.
Police said a man attempting to carjack a bar employee was shot and killed by the victim's boyfriend, who police say happened to be nearby and saw the whole thing. It happened at George's Tavern near US 1792 and 11th Street. News 6's Catherine Silver is there tonight with the latest.
Sanford police seen here piecing together what led to a deadly shooting at this bar on French Avenue. Their investigation now revealing an attempted carjacker was shot after he attacked an employee. Detectives were first called to George's Tavern around 2:20 Thursday morning, where they found a man dead in the parking lot. Police focused on the back of the business, where they say the man came out of a portalette near the worker's car and...
Oh my God, he was hiding in a porta potty. He was hiding in a porta potty. Man, he must be able to hold his breath for he must have been able to, because he's dead. Must have been able to hold his breath for a long time.
Ambushed her. Investigators say the woman's...
And he attacked a female. What a fucking coward. Again, I'm not saying females are above being attacked, because there are FAGGOTS who'll say, you can never hit a female. Okay. What if she's trying to drown my kid in the tub? Can I hit her then? Because I will.
Boyfriend, who was waiting for her to finish her shift, shot and killed the man.
Oh, wow.
People passing by the bar Thursday say they woke
Great commentary. Great. This guy's probably still got a hangover, so,
up and saw police in the parking lot.
Oh, yeah, I heard some gunshots.
It surprised me. Very surprised. Shocked.
Al Moon is a regular at the tavern.
George's is a very friendly place. It's a nice place to come. There's never any trouble in here. The owners are very, very nice people.
This bar is a landmark, a staple here in Sanford. It's less than a mile to downtown and even closer to police headquarters. Detectives there are working to identify the man who was shot. Security cameras placed around the business did capture video of the attack and shooting. Police say it is part of their investigation. Based on what they know so far, they say the employee and her boyfriend are not facing any charges. In Sanford.
Good. So, guy pops out of a porta potty, attacks a girl trying to carjack her, and the boyfriend does his job in society, protects the woman, smokes the motherfucker. Good. Hey, don't carjack people, huh? You want to come on my channel? Oh, the poor criminal. Okay. Now, you know what? Get a job. All right. So, Harrisburg versus Bmore. H-burg versus Bmore. So we got fights happening in schools, which the black community loves, fighting in school, no self-control, no accountability. But let's compare how Harrisburg is going to handle it versus how Baltimore is going to handle it. If you can't tell, I'm leaning towards Harrisburg.
Earlier this week, district leaders discussed the concept of a district-wide police force after the beginning of the year at John Harris High School was marred by fights.
Sometimes things just go from A to Z quickly.
Harrisburg schools.
Which group? Which students? I'm sure I'm almost positive that all these fights are the Koreans, right? It's the Koreans and right? It's the Asians getting in all the fights and pulling out their cell phones, right? They're fighting over them Jordans, right?
Superintendent Eric Turman says in-house police officers could improve safety.
I've been threatened since I've been here simply for asking children to go to class and stay out of the hall.
Children don't make threats, okay? Once you threaten somebody's safety, to me, you're no longer a child. I now have to take you seriously.
The school district's security and safety director says the support is needed, but the police force could also keep many kids from ending up in the criminal justice system.
For me personally, if it's an option that we have, there's nothing wrong with bringing a child in and saying, okay, you're going to clean desks this weekend.
Nonviolence advocate Kevin.
Whoa, clean desks. You mean you're going to make troublemakers clean the school and do chores? I don't know, bro. That kind of sounds like slavery.
Kevin Dolphin with Breaking the Chains Resource Center hopes the district brings
He said he's going to turn them into slaves. That's what people hear, right?
in other resources while classes are in session.
You can also have 1 or 2 grassroots organizations, some mentors in there to be the bridge between the gap between these police officers and these youth.
No. Okay. See, all right, here we go. So you know what we're hearing? So now I'm hearing prison to school school to prison pipeline, right? That's going to be the typical response from Democrats and weak and white liberals and typical black. Oh, the school to prison pipeline. Okay. That's right. Holding people accountable, making them clean. Oh, slavery. Okay. So let's take a look at how Baltimore is handling it, okay?
It was surfacing on social media showing a student being beaten up at a bus stop near Mervo High School. It's one of several violent incidents around Mervo this year.
And now the kid's on the ground, and now the kid's having their head stomped on, and other people there just standing by and filming it, right? They're not calling the police. They're not telling you to stop. And remember, I'm not going to get too far into civilians, but when the police, if a police officer sees someone having their head stomped on, that in most states, that's now authorization of lethal force. You stomp on someone's head, you can destroy one of their vital organs, an eye, the smallest bones in your spine, the cervical vertebrae, the neck. You can paralyze somebody, you can kill somebody. So as far as I'm concerned, if you're stomping on somebody and a family member pulls out a gun and wastes you, that's your own fucking fault. All right? That's your own fucking fault. I'm not stomping on someone's head when they're on the ground. Okay? That's my 2 cents.
Baltimore Mayor Brandon Scott is coming forward now with a new program to put violence interrupters in city schools.
Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost questions the mayor about that plan.
The mayor is putting violent interrupters in 3 Baltimore City high schools. And if it sounds familiar, it's very similar to how Baltimore's Safe Streets program is operated. This new plan comes as more video continues to surface showing violence and fighting taking place in high schools and schools across Baltimore.
Just randomly though?
A brutal bus stop beating.
Damn, you leaking, bro, you good?
Showing students stomping a kid less than a mile away from Mervo High School. The student at times...
Yeah, the kid's face down. And they're hitting him in the head. Multiple people. This is why nobody wants to go to school with you. Do you understand? Are you getting it yet?
Where the white flag?
Motionless on a blood-stained sidewalk. It's the same school where 17-year-old Jeremiah Brogdon was gunned down walking out of school in September. And one of 3 schools Mayor Brandon Scott is launching a pilot crime intervention program along with the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement. The other 2 schools, Carver Vocational High School and Digital Harbor High. The mayor's office says the schools were picked because the number of arrests, suspensions, ability to implement the pilot, and other metrics. Also in September, a 15-year-old Carver student was grazed in the head by a bullet near campus. And in April, a girl was injured during a fight at Digital Harbor. The pilot program puts 3 violence...
I like how they show white people walking by after they've talked about all of this black violence. You like the little psychological tricks they do there?
Interrupters in each school, along with 8...
I'm sure it's the white kids doing the drive-bys in Baltimore, right?
Student ambassadors.
All those squeegee boys, those are all white kids, right?
This outline mirrors the plan for Safe Streets, Baltimore's flagship violence intervention program.
But it's also the same program plagued with questions, skepticism, and reorganization. We asked Monzi and the mayor's office if the same requirements for Safe Streets has for interrupters, which are former criminals, often felons, will be the same that's implemented in schools. Monzi answering, saying having a felony record isn't the same as a credible messenger, and in this case, the program will largely be made of high school students.
Good.
At a different event led by the mayor and Monzi Wednesday, we tried to clarify some details with Monzi's director, Shantae Jackson, about this new pilot intervention program.
And let me guess, she didn't say shit, right?
She's here.
She said, talk to my hand.
Or TV, it would be great to get a quick soundbite. So she won't talk to us in person? So now, okay. The mayor's interest in stepping into what's happening in the
She's not talking to you.
classroom now comes after he spent months distancing himself from city schools.
I think for you, and in particular for your station, I'm going to say this again, understanding that our school system is not controlled by the city.
After Fox 45's Project Baltimore highlighting the failures inside Augusta Fells and plummeting school performance, Mayor Scott not willing to talk about the investigation launched to determine how enrollment numbers were inflated.
I'm aware of the report. We know that our system has been challenged. We will not use this as an opportunity to just poo-poo on our students.
That's right. It's never the kids' fault, right? It's not their fault they don't go to school. It's not their fault they don't do their homework. It's not their fault they're violent and beating the shit out of people and shooting people and killing people. No. Let me guess. Poverty, slavery, redlining, white supremacy, right?
In August of 2021, people calling for city school CEO Sonia Santelises to resign. We asked Mayor Scott then if he still supports Santelises' leadership.
This is much deeper than one person. We know that across the country, we have seen issues like this. The system has a plan for how we're going to work with our young people, and we're going to focus on that.
That's weak, bro. Did you just say, well, there's violence everywhere else, so it's okay? Did you just say that? We live in Baltimore and we elected you, so do something, motherfucker. Otherwise, step down.
And focus on helping our young people and not using them for political fodder.
No, he ain't leaked. He eyed.
Now, as violence continues to surface, the mayor seems to be more than willing to step in.
I mean, look at this guy. This guy can't stand up, and this dude feels that it's more important to film him instead of help him up. Like, fuck you, dude. I don't want to. This is why no one wants to be around you. You understand? All right. So that's Baltimore's plan. So I just have a question. Whenever the black community and white liberals and Democrats say school to prison pipeline, cops in our school to prison pipeline, is the logical answer to bring former criminals and gangbangers and convicted felons to the school? Does that make sense to you? Does it say something about your community when you believe your kids will listen more to ex-gangbangers than they will police officers? Can we talk about that? I don't want to hear you bitch about the school to prison pipeline when you bring former prisoners to the school. Let me know what you think. And again, another question is, are these people qualified? Are they qualified to have the job they have? And this is a famous story. This happened 2 months ago. This guy was a famous no violence, no gun zone, also a former prisoner. Well, let's see.
The Baltimore Police Department has released the body camera footage of an officer shooting and killing a man in West Baltimore. This happened Saturday near the intersection of West Lafayette and North Fulton Avenues.
Send more units. Send more units. Send more units. Send more units. Get down.
Now, police say Tyree Moorhead was carrying a knife and assaulting a woman at the time of the shooting. After getting out of his patrol car, police say Officer Zachary Rutherford ordered Moorhead to drop his knife.
Right. So here's a guy, seen as a violence interrupter, seen as a activist, put the guns down, safe streets, all that, former felon himself. I was looking in the comments of this video and somebody said he was a convicted murderer who spent 18 years in prison for second-degree murder with a gun. I wonder, again, if that's true. I wonder why they don't bring that up. So he's walking up to this girl. He's got a knife in his hand. And typical of the black community, oh, they hunting us. We scared. We afraid. A white cop just pulled up half a block away from you and has his gun out. And this guy doesn't even flinch. He's still walking towards a woman on the ground with a knife in his hand. Is that the actions of a person who's afraid, who's an advocate against violence? You're full of shit.
Assaulting a woman at the time of the shooting.
And the cop did the right thing and wasted this motherfucker. Damn. Comply. Put the knife down. Stop. Don't attack her. Don't stab her. Why is listening so fucking hard?
Getting out of his patrol car, police say Officer Zachary Rutherford ordered Moorhead to drop his knife, but he did not comply. The officer then shot Moorhead multiple times, unloading the clip of his handgun. Moorhead, who for years has been an advocate against gun violence in Baltimore, died at the hospital.
Yeah, good fucking riddance. I don't give a fuck. You walking up on a woman with a knife and then you get on top of her and then you surprise. See, the only thing that happened here is he's surprised somebody stopped him. That's all that is. And of course there was outrage and the poor blacks. Well, I got a story on it. So let's take a look. After no shoot zone activist killed by Baltimore police leaves, loved ones point to mental illness. Lament police response. Right. So just like the Micaiah Bryant shooting, we should have just let him kill his baby mama, right? You ever note? I learned this from Divested Zealot with the black community, which is whenever they only talk about things that are done to them, they never talk about the things they do to everyone else. You ever notice that? Tyree Moorhead became well known in Baltimore for his anti-violence activism, using spray paint to mark no shoot zones at shooting and homicide scenes across the city. Yeah, that's really going to stop your community. A sign. Have you seen Baltimore's failure? Have you seen Baltimore's graduation rates? What is it? 1/3 can read above a 6th grade level. During a year-long effort to quell the pervasive violence plaguing his community, Moorhead often spoke publicly about his personal experiences, including in social media posts and interviews about moving forward after surviving gunshot wounds himself. But on Sunday afternoon, his life ended in another act of violence. A Baltimore police officer opened fire on Moorhead after responding to a 911 call about a woman being attacked near the intersection of Lafayette and North Fulton Avenues in West Baltimore. Witnesses reported hearing at least a dozen shots fired. Moorhead, 46, was pronounced dead at a local hospital shortly after the shooting. See how they're trying to paint him as the fucking victim? It's literally on video. Walking up to a woman with a knife, getting on top of her with a knife. As loved ones processed the tragic news Monday, they described his untimely death against a backdrop of trauma and escalating mental health challenges. Oh, here we go. Well, yeah, clearly you can't restrain yourself. I mean, I guess being an activist is a good grift in the black community, right? They said Moorhead displayed increasingly volatile behavior in recent months, even as he remained dedicated to his anti-violence work. Well, that's funny. When push came to shove, it looked like attempted murder. Baltimore Police Commissioner Michael Harrison said Moorhead was assaulting a woman on the ground, armed with a very large knife, when officers arrived on the scene around 3:40 p.m. Sunday. After police ordered him to drop the knife and get down, Moorhead rolled over on top of the woman, Harrison said. That's when an officer opened fire. Harrison said Sunday that the officer filed he mag dumped. He mag dumped, which I'm fine with. I don't care. Get the fuck off the woman. Stop trying to stab people. Officials said the woman was not stabbed or shot. Medics treated her for minor injuries at the scene. It remains unclear whether she and Moorhead knew each other before the alleged attack. 2 officers were present when the shooting occurred, but only one appeared to have fired his weapon. Baltimore Police Department spokesperson Lindsay Eldridge said both were placed on administrative leave. DeMonte Madison, who witnessed the shooting from the median of Fulton Avenue, said the officer kept shooting, telling the man repeatedly to drop the knife, even though he already seemed to be dying. That's what made me upset, he said. He didn't have to shoot him like that. Yeah, see, there it is. There it is, right there. Nothing about what the fuck this guy was doing with a knife on top of a woman. Let me tell you something. If that was my kid that tried to murder a woman, I would have gone to that woman and her family and got on my fucking knees and begged for forgiveness. I'm so sorry for what my kid tried to do to you. I'm sorry they tried to murder you. Others raised similar questions about the number of shots fired, especially since Moorhead was at close range, not running away. Yeah, fuck all these people. All these people don't want you to be allowed to defend yourself, especially against blacks. His father, Carlton Moorhead, also witnessed the deadly encounter, which unfolded near his home. The man said he didn't understand why police shot his son, who appeared to be complying with their commands. The police should not have shot him so many times. He declined to discuss the shooting at length Monday, saying he didn't want to relive those horrific moments. Tyreen was his 3rd son lost to violence. I don't want to put my mind on it, the father said. I have no sons left. Tyreen Moorhead, who often identified himself as Tyree Colian, gained a following as a local rapper, I'm not surprised, and launched his anti-violence campaign after being released from prison in 2012 following 20 years behind bars. He was 15 when Baltimore police arrested him in what they called a drug-related killing in the Lafayette Courts public housing complex. Over the past decade, Moorhead tagged more than 200 no-shoot zones across Baltimore, which do absolutely nothing. Your kids can't read in Baltimore. What does this do? This is like marching. In the hours before his death Sunday afternoon, he posted a lengthy live video on Instagram telling his followers that the real God had given him instructions. He said there were forces working against him, including Satan, gang leaders, and the oppressor. This is how they've killed every prophet before me, every rapper, he said. Oh, now it's a conspiracy, right? The first person that thinks something is going to happen to me, I want y'all to know the whole world will go boom. His partner of almost 2 years, Angelia McDonald, also appeared in the video. She said in an interview Monday that she left for work around 3 p.m. Sunday, even though Moorhead begged her to stay. He even told her, "This will be the last time you see me." It's like he knew the police were going to kill him, she said. Again, not condoning, nothing about what he was doing, nothing about the knife, nothing about being on top of a woman with a knife. No, it's the police fault. Earlier in the weekend, Moorhead had chased a stranger while holding a knife. McDonald said she intervened, but when the 2 men met later at a gas station, Moorhead had no memory of their earlier encounter. Wow, so he chased someone else with a knife. So a mammy. She noticed his behavior was changing Wednesday. He would do or say things and later forget them, she said. Although he sometimes regained his senses, he was increasingly paranoid. He was talking and saying he wouldn't want to live anymore. He wasn't suicidal, but he didn't want to live anymore. McDonald said she considered calling an ambulance to take him to the hospital for mental health treatment, but she believed he wouldn't agree to it. His paranoia extended to medical facilities, which is why he walked out of Johns Hopkins Hospital in a gown with an IV stuck to his arm after he was shot in August. So many times he was crying out for help and nobody would help, she said. Well, again, when you offer him help and he declines, he still has to choose to get help, okay? Now, again, I wonder if she would say anything about the father. Oh, he needs help? Did you call his father? Did his father do anything? Moorhead was hospitalized after the August shooting in East Baltimore. In a video posted to his Instagram, a bleeding Moorhead said he was going to the store when he was attacked. That following a 2017 stabbing that left Moorhead injured. He live-streamed the aftermath of the violence, which police called a domestic incident. When he was well, Moorhead was compassionate, loved animals, and was good with kids. He often would return physically exhausted from painting, no shoot zones in hopes of protecting women and children from violence. He loved people so much that he sacrificed that for them, his partner said. Oh, really? Oh, he sacrificed for them? Oh, hang on one sec. Hang on. Let's go back. Really? Really? Here he is with the knife. Right here. Right? Now he's on top of the with a knife. Yeah? Really? Oh. What did that article say? He sacrificed for women and children? What, he sacrificed them? I'm all about, look, if someone needs help, they need help. But you know, this whole fucking thing about that's not a good that's not good, bro. Charlene Jenkins, a local chaplain who runs a weekly mental health workshop in Baltimore, said so basically it's just blah blah blah, poor him. You know, I don't know what to say, man. So anyway, so this was a person who was essentially, you know, this guy was anti-violence. He's one of the, you know, he's an activist, was in prison for murder, comes out, was in another altercation, which I wanted to show by reading this article. He had another altercation where his girlfriend had to step in. He chased someone else with a knife. Then he chases another woman with a knife, and no fear from the police. Couldn't follow commands, and they killed him and shot him. Now, last thing I'm going to say, this is the last point I want to make. I really don't understand putting former criminals in a school with a lot of young people who could be influenced by. So in other words, is it a stretch of the imagination to put a former gangbanger in a school where that gangbanger might try to recruit kids to join his gang? You know how conservatives were saying 5 years ago that men will pretend to be women to get into women's spaces and women's shelters and women's bathrooms, and now that's happening. They're putting men in women's prisons. Is it really a stretch of the mind to think that a former gangbanger will try to recruit kids into their gang? Don't worry. Big Time brought the receipts. This is in London, you know, where, you know, they have drill rappers and knife fights and everything. This is in London. This is a guy named Young Diz.
To ban the genre and have 130 drill music videos removed from the platform. One case in particular involving a rapper from East London named Young Diz.
So let me just say, freedom of expression, freedom of music. Yeah, okay. But when your music routinely talks about killing, murdering, selling drugs, it's not really that far of a stretch of the imagination, right?
Caught their attention and prompted the crackdown on drill in the country. Isaac Donko, who raps under the name Young Diz, was arrested in April 2019 for a kidnapping that occurred the previous summer. Diz was accused of recruiting a group of high school kids, 2 that were 16 and 2 that were 14, to help him kidnap and torture another 16-year-old enemy. Isaac was a member of the Six Gang, which operated out of the Beckton neighborhood of East London. He's also a popular rapper who performed under the name Young Diz and had even been featured on Tim Westwood's popular YouTube channel. Diz is known as the Prince of the Six and is a feared and respected gang member in East London. He has been making music for years, and when drill started...
I'm so happy you got to go to London and just destroy that country. I'm so... They gave you so much freedom, you know? Boy, it must be nice to just go to someone else's country and just destroy it. So he recruited kids from a high school to kidnap and torture another 16-year-old kid from another gang. Okay? So don't fucking tell me it can't happen. Let's hear a little more.
To pop off in London, he caught the wave and began to build a career for himself. But his music career was put on hold for a while after he caught a pretty wild charge. Diz was 21 years old at the time and had recruited a group of teenagers from a local high school to help him with the kidnapping. It was later alleged in court that Diz would often go to the local high school and flaunt his wealth and status in the street to recruit younger kids in the neighborhood to help him commit crimes.
Right, so right here, look at this, holding a shotgun. Okay, so there you go. There's my receipts. Don't fucking tell me. Do not fucking tell me that putting a former criminal, again, What does it say about your community and your kids when you'd rather they be surrounded by former criminals than police? Leave a comment down below. I'm big time. That's news to me.